Uh, so let's start today. Today we'll be having introduction to VMware. Okay. So before we start, let me introduce myself. So my name is Syed Yunus. So I'm the senior instructor for VMware. So I've been teaching networking courses almost like last 13 years. Okay. So I take classes for Microsoft Server that includes like 2003, 2008. Okay. So previously, like I used to take classes for this version. Okay. So in today's, we'll be talking about like 2016. Okay. So this is the new version. Apart from 16, I also start taking classes for 2019 server. Okay. So apart from MCSC, I also take classes for Exchange. That is our Exchange server. And even I also take classes for VMware. Okay. So I work for a company called Netmatrix Solutions. Netmatrix Solutions, and I worked for this company almost 12 years. Okay. So after 2 years, I started my own organization. That is my Feasible IT Solution. Okay. So Feasible, I'm one of the partner of this company, and I purchased domain from UK. Okay. So my company website, it will be like feasible.com.au. Okay. So one of my partners is actually stay in Australia. So from Australia, we purchase a domain. Okay. So if somebody wants to see my company website, you just go browser and you can write www.feasible.com.au, and I can show you https://feasible.com.au. Okay. Okay, so we just started, and still my website is under construction, so we don't have anything here. Okay, so just we get only the information, and slowly we are updating some kind of training information here. So this is all about my company. So we actually have dedicated team. So not only we take classes for MCSC, Exchange, VMware, we also take classes for cloud, that is Azure, Amazon. We also take classes on Linux, and I have a dedicated team for the Cisco that is going to take like CCNA, CCNP, up to like CCI. Even we also have classes on the firewall. It may be like ASA firewall, it may be FortiGate firewall, or it may be Palo Alto. That means according to the requirement, we have dedicated team. Okay? And this is my number, and you can call me or you can WhatsApp me. So the same number I'm using for my call purpose as well as WhatsApp. Okay. So today, as well, like we are going to start introduction part for VMware. So today we are going to go over a key concept we have to understand in order to implement virtualization. Okay. So within in our environment, so many different vendors have many different virtualization products. So virtualization is almost overall is not a complicated concept, but it has very specific thing we need to understand if we are especially if you are deploying in our enterprise level company. Okay. So this class gives you introduction to virtualization. Okay. So anybody know what is virtualization? Virtualization. So when you talk about virtualization, okay, so normally see sometimes like we have some confusion between cloud and virtualization. Okay, so virtualization basically it is like one of the component of a cloud. Okay, so cloud is merged larger than different. Okay, so virtualization is not a complete a cloud. Okay, so cloud is different and virtualization is just one of the components of a cloud computing. Okay. So what we are talking, like here we are talking about separating operating system from the hardware. Okay. Now, if you go back to certain years back, okay, so normally like we know about the servers. Okay, we are working on some dedicated companies. So normally what happens? Okay, so let's say we have a machine, we have a device. Okay, so whenever if you install an operating system, okay, so it is connected to the hardware. Like if you install Windows 2012, okay, and on a piece of hardware, so it was actually installed on the physical hardware. On that physical hardware, like you may have a hard disk, you may have all the components. Suppose you remove this hard disk and you try to connect that hard disk to some other device. So will it is going to work? Okay. Simply I'll take out hard disk from this device, and the same hard disk, suppose I'm going to connect to some other device. Okay. So will this operating system is going to work here? Hmm. Yeah. 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 So normally what happens, like when you talk about the desktop, so desktop operating system, you never have a problem. But when you talk about the server is, very critical. All the time, you will not get 100% result. Okay. So now, so when you connect to like another server, so like if you install operating system, it actually becomes the link to the hardware. So this operating system, actually becomes the link to the hardware of this device. Means like whatever the components you have, it is going to connect all these things to this particular. So what virtualization does? So virtualization gives you a layer on that hardware. Okay, when you talk about like virtualization, so it gives you a layer on hardware. Then you can install uh, instances, or you can say the multiple operating virtual machine. Okay, so what will happen here? Let's say this is your hardware. On the top of hardware, we have something called as hypervisor. Okay? So this is your hypervisor. On the top of hypervisor, we'll be installing some instance, or you can say virtual machine. On the top of virtual machine, you'll be installing operating system, you'll be installing the services, or you will be installing like application. So whatever the requirement we have, we can install. Okay. So that means, so normally what happened here? So previously operating system installed direct on hardware. Like when you install operating system, it's actually we install on the direct hardware. Okay. Now something called as hypervisor. Okay. So we have hypervisor on hardware. Then we install the the operating system. So on the top of hypervisor, we'll be installing the virtual machine. On the virtual machine, we'll be installing the operating system. On that operating system, we can install the applications. Okay. Now, one more thing we need to understand here. Let's say, suppose we have a device. On the top of device, we install like 2012, or maybe we install any operating system. Okay. So we install operating system direct on device. Okay. Now, what happens if hard disk fails? If RAM fail or SMPS fail, or something like we could not get the hardware in the market. Okay. So now what happened with virtualization? Like why this technology actually booming? Like why the company, normally like we can say like most of the people, looking for the virtualization part. Okay. So, so the world moving, moving toward the virtualization, and demand for VMware, is going very high. The responsibility of VMware admins are, upkeep, the configure and build a reliable operations. Okay, the computer systems in VMware vSphere environment. Okay, so it is not enough for VMware admin to only learn about ESXi components and execute his job. Okay, it is very important for him to have a clear understanding about how the relevant systems and components function in the infrastructure. So this is very, very important. We need to understand here, like why this technology actually booming. Okay. So we install hypervisor on the top of, hardware. On that hypervisor, we install the instances. Okay. So now your operating system, your operating system is actually tied to this hypervisor. It is no longer tied to this hardware. So now why is important? Now let's say you have another server, and on that, okay, where you install the same kind of hypervisor. Okay. Now, what you can do, you can move these instances, you can move this virtual machine like the way you move files and folders in our Windows environment, like the way you move a file and a document, the same thing we can move it. Okay. So even if something happens, automatically this can be migrated, this can be, automatically we can move to another device. Okay. So this is like one of the reasons like why the virtualization become very, very important. Okay. Now, the second thing we need to understand here, suppose you have a computer, you have a device. On a computer, how many types of operating system you can install? Let's say you have one partition here, C. One of the partition we have D. One of the partition we have E. So that like we have multiple partitions. So in one computer, how many operating system I can install? Okay. So that means when I install the first operating system, I can give a location like C. I can install one more operating system. I can install one more. Okay. But the problem here is like if you are installing maybe multiple operating system in one device, okay. So at a time, how many operating system we can use it? Can I use at a time all the three operating system or two operating system? So normally it's not. Yes. Okay. That means, I remember when I, maybe before 5 to 6 years, I went to one company. So those people like they have 100 employees and they will be having infrastructure of only 50 computers. Okay. So that person told me like, okay, we have some of the people like Windows, we have some of the people like, Linux, and we cannot purchase like 100 devices. Okay. So in that situation, like what actually as admin, what we do, so on the C drive, we install the Windows. On the D drive, we install the Linux. So whenever any person comes to this machine, whenever suppose he's a Linux, so he power on, he try to use Linux. Next time, suppose any Windows person come, then we can, when he power on, he can able to select the Windows. Now he is going to work on that. Like that, we actually follow this kind of rule. Okay. So now the second thing we need to understand, like on hypervisor, we can install different types of operating systems. Okay. That means when you install hypervisor on a top of device, okay, so what we can do here, one of the virtual machine, I can install Linux. One of the virtual machine, I can install Windows. One of the virtual machine, I can install the Unix. One of the virtual machine, I can install the Red Hat. That means according to me, I can install multiple virtual machines and each and every operating system is going to work on a network. Okay. So instead of buying 10 low cost devices to run these if we work operating system, so we can purchase one very high powerful server. Like if you work on enterprise level, it makes a lot of difference. So if you're new to computer world, we may be thinking like it's cool to have 10-20 computers. Okay. But when you start doing dealing business, you may have 100, 200, thousands of servers. It's really nice to consolidate those server into individual boxes. So number of, so instead of having 50 physical server, you can have 50 instances or 50 virtual machines in one device. Okay. That is the main purpose of the virtualization. That means like instead of having, multiple devices, you can have only few devices, and those few devices you can have many virtual machine, and every virtual machine, it is acting of for the client computer, it is going to acting as a physical device. Okay. So that is also like one of the reasons why the virtualization become very, very important. Okay. Now apart from that, now when you talk about like if you go certain years before and see, normally still like the people still have confusion like what is a server. Okay. So what is server and how is different from the normal machine? Okay. So today, like let's say suppose whenever we purchase a normal computer, it may be like i3, i5, i7. So these computer we purchase only for our personal. Okay. In server, we run all type of applications, like we have SharePoint, we have Exchange, and application is like a money maker. Okay, so we don't want application down. Okay, so that's why like to we deploy all the server, and these server has to be running 24/7. Okay, so what actually happened like before 15 to 20 years? Okay, when there was no virtualization concept. Okay, so now if you want to purchase any server, first of all, we need to talk to the management. In a management, like we actually have a process that is called like capex, capital in expenditure. Okay, so the number of server you want to purchase, then there is a capex there. Okay, the next thing we need to talk about here like utilization. Okay, so suppose if you purchase a server, when I say server always like you may have more RAM, more CPU, and you may have like more hard disk. Okay, and it's like more costly compared to the normal machine. Okay, so let's say suppose I have a server, and that server is having, suppose, just I'm giving example, 16 GB RAM. Okay, on the top of that I install the Windows operating system. Okay, on the top of Windows operating system, let's say I install Active Directory. Okay, so imagine how much I'm utilizing. Okay, so I'm utilizing 100%. So simply is I have just only a device. On the top of device, it's very good configuration, maybe like 16 GB RAM. In that, I install the operating system. On the top of that, I also install Active Directory. Okay. So do you think like I'm utilizing all the memory, all the hard disk, all the the configuration? Okay. So maybe I'll be, yeah, maybe we can say 30 to 40% will be utilizing. Rest of the thing, this. Okay. So company doesn't mean like you just have only one server. Let's say in a company you may have 100, 200 servers. Then when you see all the server, how much we are utilizing, even though we have very good device. Okay. And how much we are utilizing? Nothing. Okay. So that means many, like more than 50% we are wasting. Okay, by by seeing this issue, now VMware people actually develop the technology. Okay, and we even need to understand let's say suppose if you want to have 100 200 servers, to keep 100 200 servers we also require very good space. Okay, in a company like we have data center room, we also have server room. So when you talk about like if you want to keep hundreds of servers physically, you also require very good space. Okay, but what the virtualization is doing, so instead of 100 200, now we can have maybe 10 20 maybe 30 servers. Now we are going to configure, we can consolidate all the server into individual boxes. Okay, that is also one of the advantages. Okay, so and normally like nowadays we also have a problem like global warming. Okay, right? So number of server we have, that much headache we have. There is no guarantee here. Okay, suddenly like we have flood or something, again there is no guarantee here. Okay, so that's the reason like even the people, they are moving to cloud. Okay, the next thing we need to understand here, like what is hypervisor. Okay, the technology which is going to perform all the tasks. Okay, the name of the technology, we call it as hypervisor. Okay, so see, the complete virtualization is depends on the hypervisor. Hypervisor, there are two categories: type 1 hypervisor, and we also have type 2 hypervisor. Okay, see, normally we will be getting only two types of hypervisor. One is type 1 as well as type 2. Okay, so when you talk about type 1 hypervisor, these hypervisor we actually configure directly on a bare metal. Means only server, nothing, no operating system, no application. So these hypervisor we run direct on a server. Okay, that means we have a server, on the top of server directly we install the hypervisor. That means it is going to bind to the hardware direct. Okay, that is your type 1 hypervisor. But when you talk about type 2 hypervisor, this is going to be installed on the top of operating system based on like if you're using Windows, you have to install the Windows base. If you're using Linux, then you need to install the Linux base. If you're using the uh, Mac, then you need to install based on that Mac. Okay. So based on the requirement, you need to install that. Okay. So when you talk about type 1 hypervisor, so type 1 is nothing but we install direct on bare metal. Bare metal means directly on the top of hardware. Okay. Like the way you install operating system data, same we are installing the hypervisor. Okay. So once you install type 1 hypervisor, it actually gives you, low level interface. Like let's say I just install hypervisor. So what actually it will give? So when I sit on a machine, it will show you one screen. Okay, just I'm giving an example. I already have one ESXI here. Okay, so once you log in, so what it will do? It will show you this screen. So here it will try to, it will try to give you the information like what is the version you install, how much RAM you have, what is the processor, and it also show you like what is the name of this ESXi, what IP. This is called low level interface. Nothing. We cannot do most of the tasks here. We cannot do, we are not doing anything directly by sitting on this particular hypervisor. Okay. So for type 1 hypervisor, you need something called management console. Like if I want to manage this hypervisor, how we are going to manage? We open a browser. Let's say, I open a browser. On the top of browser, I'm going to write something like I'll put a IP, then I'll be getting a screen. Just I'm giving an example. This is I don't have setup here. So once you put IP, you'll be getting a page. Now from where you are going to write the information, then you will be connecting to those hypervisor, then you are doing the management. Okay. So the management console is actually manage the type 1 hypervisor. We cannot do anything directly, sitting on the physical server. So with the hypervisor, you have to do that. So coming classes, we'll see like how we can install and how we can set up all our virtualization setup. Okay. And one of the things we need to understand here, okay, we have something called like over allocation. See, always, whenever I take introduction class, so this is the feature I always talk, that is over allocation. Okay. So what is over allocation? Okay. Let's say today I go market, I purchase one server, and that server suppose is having 24 GB RAM. Okay. On the top of that, okay, let's say we have a physical server and that has only 24 GB of RAM. Now suppose on that physical server, we install multiple virtual machines. Okay. So one of the virtual machine I'll be installing like Windows. One of the virtual machine I'll be installing Linux. One of the virtual machine maybe I install like Mac. Doesn't matter like whatever we are installing. So when I install my Windows, let's say suppose I'll be giving 12 GB RAM. When I install another like Linux, suppose I'll be giving 8 GB RAM, and one of the virtual machines, suppose I'll be giving 10 GB. Okay. So when you calculate how much it is, okay. So now if you calculate, almost it's like 30 GB. But right now, physically, I have only 24 GB RAM, which is connected. That is my physical configuration. Okay. So now what happened, what hypervisor will do? Okay. So type 1 hypervisor has a capability. What it is going to do, it give you how much actually your virtual machine needs. Okay. So overall, whatever like when, see normally like, let's say you have a Windows, and in that Windows you just install operating system, and here you can install Access. So when you power on this virtual machine, it is not going to utilize complete 12 GB. Okay. So how much this virtual machine needs? Now it is going to give only that much of RAM. Okay. That is called over allocation. Okay. The same thing when you talk about type 1 hypervisor. Type 1 hypervisor, you have a hardware. On the top of hardware, we have to install a operating system layer. So this is your operating system. So this is your hardware. On the top of operating system, we need to install that is type 2 hypervisor. Okay. So if you are installing type 2 hypervisor from VMware, the name of the hypervisor we call VMware Workstation. If you're installing this hypervisor from Oracle, we call it as VirtualBox. Okay. If you're installing this hypervisor from Microsoft, we call it as Virtual PC. Okay. See, like this, we have many companies who give you type 2 hypervisor, and this type 2 hypervisor normally we use for the test purpose. So on this hypervisor, what actually we do? Now we'll be installing virtual machine. On the top of virtual machine, you install application. Sorry, you install for operating system. Okay, so there will be operating system here. On the top of operating system, you install services, you install application. Depend like what you want, you can do that. That means multiple virtual machine you can install. Okay, but in this type of hypervisor, we don't have any over allocation. That means hypervisor. So let's say suppose the total configuration of my laptop is suppose 8 GB, and on that, if I install Windows and if I give suppose 4 GB, so once you power on, automatically like from this hardware it utilizes the 4 GB. Okay, using or not, it doesn't mean. Okay, so that means I install one more. Suppose here I give 2 GB. So once you power on, it will utilize the 2 GB. I give 1 GB, then it will utilize. Okay, that means I can use only up to 8 GB of RAM to all these virtual machine overall. Okay, but when you talk about type 1, it has some kind of feature. Okay, so the next very important important question comes like when actually this hypervisor came to the market. I mean like when VMware started introducing all these kind of virtualization products. Okay, so anybody remember when we have this virtualization concept? Is it totally new or already came very long ago? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now, like from VMware, the first product we call ESX. Okay, and this product released in the year 2002 or 2003 somewhere. Okay, virtualization is not totally new. Okay, so one of the hypervisors came, that is ESX, and ESX we call Elastic Sky X. Okay, and we don't know like why the VMware has given this name. So that name even give you a lot of meaning. Okay, so when you say like elastic, so if you take example for normal like in our day-to-day life when you use elastic, okay, so the how much you want you can stretch. That is based on your power. Okay, the same thing, the meaning of this hypervisor, you can you can install many things based on the configuration of your server. Okay, so when VMware people introduce this technology to implement, they actually need some kind of platform. Okay, now like VMware, they came with this idea, but how to use? Suppose they go to Microsoft and say, "Give me the coding of 2003. I want to develop ESX." Okay, so Microsoft means definitely they say no. Why? Because these are the leaders in the market. Okay, so now they have another option, Linux. Okay, so when you talk about Linux, which is we call open source, anybody can use it. So VMware, they don't have anything in their house. They approach to Red Hat and they tie up, and they integrated the capability of ESX to Red Hat. Okay, so when they launch first time, when you when you power on, it takes a lot of time to boot. Okay, it's almost like take 700 MB of space. And whenever Red Hat release any new patch, for VMware also need to release a new patch. So by seeing this many issue, what VMware has done, they introduce new product that is called ESXi. Okay. So I mean we call integrated or embed. Okay. So they left Red Hat and they started their own program based on the Linux, and they modify and they came by ESXi. So when ESXi came, now many problems have gone. Okay. So in ESX or ESXi we have many versions. Okay. See, today we use only ESXi. Okay. But before ESXi there was a product ESX. Okay. ESX we have many versions. See, which is already outdated. So we have like 1, 2, then 2.5, then 3, 3.5, then 4.0, 4.1, 4.1. Then when you talk about ESX, starting from like 4.0, okay, we also have ESX 4.1, ESXi. Then after that we have 5.0, then 5.1, then 5.5. Okay, and after 5.5, VMware has developed the new version that is 6.0. After 6.0 we have 6.5. Then after 6.5 we have 6.7, and the latest we have 7.0. Okay, that means today in a market we can see ESXi 7.0, which is totally new in the market. Okay, but most of the people like they are migrating to 6.7. Why? Because we already know like the situation which is available in the world. Okay, so nobody is implementing a new thing. New projects are still in pending. Okay, so today we'll be using whatever the training which I'm going to show you. So everything we are going to see in 6.7. Okay, but one before we finish, even I'll try to show you some introduction to 7.0, which is we can say like almost same if you compare 6.7 and 7.0. But when you compare 6.5 and 6.7, now we have many differences. Like the way you interact 6.5 is not same 6.7. But when you compare 6.7 and 7.0, now both are maximum same. Now the last thing, certification. See, normally like anything, if you start in networking, most of the time like we need to understand certification. Okay, so exam plays very important role. So it's not only about like training. So we need to understand even the certification. If you go with exam, then what is the exam pattern? How the questions are coming and how to solve the exam. Okay, so basically in VMware we have a lot of certification. Okay, we have data center virtualization that is based on server virtualization. We also have Horizon, that is your desktop virtualization. We also have certification on cloud. We also have certification on NSX, that is network virtualization. Okay, so certification plays very important role in our networking career. So directly, like if you go website, let me show you regarding the certification. So we have a lot of exams here. Data center. We also have like network virtualization, cloud management, digital workspace. Okay. So the training that is especially designed for our VMware, we'll be talking about like data center virtualization. That means we'll be discussing about how we are going to virtualize our server. Okay. Okay. So after server virtualization, you can go with network virtualization. That is, we can say NSS, or you can have one more chance. Like you may have one more option here. You can even go with the cloud management. Okay. So whenever you go with these data center or network, okay. So always we have some pattern here. Okay. So previously, like when you go with a data center, directly you have a paper that is VCP DC. Okay. That means VMware certified professional. That is your VMware certified professional, that is DC, that is data center virtualization. But before you become VCP, VMware says you need to even you have to go with one exam here, VCTA, VMware certified technical associate. Okay, so this is your basic exam where you have to pay almost like maybe $115. Okay, this is a basic exam. Okay, and after VCTA, you can go with a VCP. Okay, VCP DC, and there you will be paying $250 here for this exam. Okay. Then after that, you can go with VCAP. So VCAP, there are two options. Okay, so this is some advanced level certification. So VCAP, you have virtualization design, or one more exam, virtualization deploy. Okay, so when you write these two exams, you get a certificate VCAP, VMware Certified Advanced Professional. So this is only like certified professional. This will be advanced professional. Then after that, you also have like in Cisco, you have CCI level exam. In VMware, the CCI level exam we call VCDX, VMware Certified Design Expert. That means this will be your expert level exam. Hmm. The same thing, instead of data center, you can even go with NS NSX. NSX also we have same categories. Only the difference is here you have network virtualization. So VCTA, then VCP, then VCAP. Okay. For cloud management also we have same thing like VCP here, VCAP, and we also have expert level. But here we don't have VCTA. So these are the certifications. So you can go with this. Okay. See, certification sometimes like it's all about money. You know, whenever before you write, you have to do some kind of preparation here. Let's say suppose if you want VCTA, so how much we need to pay? So almost sorry, I was wrong, like 115. So it's $125, almost half price of your VCP. So the exam $125, and you'll be having like 51 question here, and you'll be getting almost 1.5 year, 1.5 hour timing. That means 1 hour 35 minutes. Okay. So from here you can schedule your exam and you can. So this is your exam number 1BO2120. Instead of that, if you go for VCP, that is your VMware Certified Professional. So here we have total $250, 70 questions, and here also we have 130 minutes. Okay, and the exam course 2VO. So that is 1VO. This is 2VO. Okay? 2120. Okay? So once you write, you will be you will be getting this kind of certificate. Either you may be like virtualization, VCP, you will be VCPA, you will be specialist in particular categories. Okay, so this is according to your certification. So today, just we talk about some little introduction about virtualization, and we also discuss about some kind of hypervisor. Okay. So if anybody is having any question, you can ask me. So this class, I also giving, online rack. So sometimes like we have confusion like what is rack, and how you can able to do practice. Okay. So basically for practice, I have some dedicated server here. So I have this server, and on the top of server, if you see my configuration, on the top of this device, I installed 2016. This is actually a server. So here we have Intel Xeon processor, and total I have 96 GB RAM. So all the practical will be we are doing here. Okay? So that means one machine you can do a lot of practice. Okay? So all the classes will be, we are going to perform on the dedicated device. And apart from this, I also have another machine, and this device available for you for the practice. Okay. So basically, like whenever if you want to do practical, main thing is lab, and to do lab for VMware compulsory, you require very good device. At least minimum you require 32 GB of RAM. If you have this 32 GB, you can prepare all your lab by your own, and you can practice in your home. Okay? But normally it's not possible. Like we have 32 GB RAM in our laptop or in our desktop. Okay. So what actually like we people have done, so we already have some, the list of servers here. So based on the requirement, like which is based on your convenient time. Okay. The class will be having from 9 p.m. Okay. But when you talk about lab, So it depends on you. Like you can do lab before the class or after the class and at your convenient time, maybe sometime like morning or evening. So 2 hours, I can give you this server. You can remotely connect with TeamViewer or any desk, and you can do all your practice. Okay. So this is about today's class.